Sisters of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. How you doing? We're being broadcast live tonight, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, and also on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. How's it going? No matter how you are listening, make sure you stop in one of the chat rooms to say hello, or send me the email at wildpaisley@gmail.com. And that's WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. Hi, Marie. If you want to support my radio habit, you can do that by doing the cash tag thing, and that is $TheSpacesBetween. Or you can also check out the website, and that is PaisleyWild.com. You can always send me an email. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com, WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. Call lines are open tonight. That number is 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, it is 44203-393-2871. And if you have a chance to check it out, by all means, go to ialife.com. ialife is the official sponsor for Truth Frequency Radio. It combines the awesomeness of the non-psychoactive properties of the ayahuasca with some high-quality CBD to just help support all of you. It's good for you. Yes, very, very good for you. Let's see here. So, I wasn't quite sure what to do for a show tonight, honestly. And I procrastinated just a little bit. Because that happens sometimes. It just happens, yeah. Because we all do it every so often, you know, we just run out of oomph and, you know, we just don't want to do the thing. I was looking for an image for the show tonight for YouTube, and I really wanted a picture of someone pouting because sometimes, yeah, I just don't want to do the thing, just like anybody else. You know, sometimes I just want to stay in bed. Or, just, I'd rather be doing something else sometimes, And I've noticed this is not just a pagan thing, it's kind of a spirituality thing. Sometimes we're on, we're doing all the things within paganism. We're doing the Sabbats, the Esbats, the holy days, the moon waters, the honoring the equinox, not the equinox, but the eclipses and new moons and we're doing the offerings and reading the tarot and the runes and creating the spells and doing the jars and, sharing the energy and just doing all the things. And because there are a lot of them. Even for, a solo practitioner, often it can be daunting, to do the things all the time. And like I said, I've seen it in other traditions, other faiths, other belief systems. Sometimes we just run out of oomph. And, we don't want to do it. We'd, rather hang out with our friends or sleep in bed for another 15 minutes or, go, do something else. And you know what? Sometimes that's exactly what we need. We've become so stuck in whatever it is we were doing, or our day-to-day activities, just we're plodding along, one foot in front of the other. And it's just all we can do to keep plodding forward and just hanging in there. And it's frustrating, just as a person. It's like I've been a parent for 28-ish years, roughly. Yeah, something like that. And so most of my life I've been a parent. Sometimes I just don't want to be a parent. I just don't. I want the time out. I want to go to my room and take a nap. I don't want to. I don't want to play. I want to take my ball. I want to go home and just, no, I don't want to. And it's not that I want to abandon my kiddos or not be a parent or a grandparent anymore. It's just sometimes I don't want that responsibility. And just like being a pagan, sometimes I just don't want the responsibility of being a pagan, because there is a responsibility there. I mean, seriously, there is. There's a responsibility to honor the deities, the divine. And even though I am, I follow Hecate and I follow Kaninos, I'm more of a pantheist. I believe in all the gods, all of them. And Lou, you're funny. Yes, Mom gets to go on timeout too. So do dads. Just saying, it's okay. As a pantheist, I do believe in all the deities. I, depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I'll give a nod to a different deity or, whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm home brewing, it might be Dionysus, for instance. It's like, hey, cheers. If I am, feeling the need to, stand up for my beliefs and go to battle, if you will, for one of my kiddos, maybe it'll be Mars. Or, if I'm trying to, send, healing energy to someone, maybe I'm working with the moon or working with the sun and I'm saying, hey, what's going on? Sometimes I'm trying to honor my ancestors. So, I might give, the first drink of my beverage in the morning, my coffee or my tea, to my ancestors by pouring it out onto the ground, or the land whites, any of those things. And, some of that is just, I just do it. To me, it's not, you know, ritualistic, if you will. It's just, it's a thing you do. It's kind of like, how do you put on your socks, you know? Well, generally, you put your toes in the open part of the sock and pull it onto your foot. Or, you know, how do you brush your teeth? Well, most of us put toothpaste on our toothbrush to brush our teeth. You know, it's just one of those things that we do. And because or for that kind of thing that's just instinctual, it's just a thing, it's something you do so often that you don't really consider part of your ritualistic activities when it comes to honoring the deities or the divine or your ancestors or your spirits or whatever. We often forget that that's actually ritualistic, and in a way we get bogged down with it. It's like, oh, it's just we just do it, we don't put any thought into it, it just becomes commonplace. And because it is commonplace, we lose some of the significance of that giving or that honoring. And so sometimes, to revitalize ourselves and our practice and our beliefs, we do need to take a time out. Not just from the parental responsibilities, but from our spirituality. When it comes time to put yourself in time out spiritually, one, meditate on it. Is there really time? And ask yourself that. Am I really as open to my path as I should be? Because a lot of times we're not. We're so used to just being in the rut that we are not seeing anything else. It's kind of like we're just driving through a tunnel. We've got tunnel vision, and all we can see is the road right in front of us, and that's it. There's nothing else. And if that's the case, and we're just driving down the tunnel and we're not seeing anything else, it means we're not looking around. So we're not seeing maybe the stalactites, the stalagmites, the ice sculptures, the crystals that might be growing, the moisture, the way the water runs down the sides, or pools on the floor, or the different rocks in the tunnel, whatever it is. We're not seeing the components of the tunnel. We're just focused on, we're going down the road. We can't make a turn. We're just doing the thing. And it doesn't mean as much. It's not so much, we're not following off our spiritual path, the pagan path. We're just plodding and just putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes that's what we have to do to get from point A to point B. But that's why I said meditate, take a step back, and search yourself. Whatever it is that you do to search yourself, meditate, ground yourself, go for a walk, talk to a peer in your path. Whether if you're in the priesthood, talk to a priest or a priestess. If you're not, talk to someone with similar beliefs. Or if you are part of a coven or a circle or moot or whatever, talk to the leadership, the spiritual leadership within your group. Whatever it is, talk it out. Your significant other is generally a really good person to talk to. Or sibling, or if you've got adult children, sometimes they're good. Sometimes go for a drive and talk to yourself. I know it sounds silly. It's like, okay, I'm driving down the road talking to myself. I do it. I think most of the people I know do it, because sometimes you just got to talk to yourself because you need that kind of expert advice. So, whatever it is, talk it out. Pros and cons. Is it time to take a break? Is it time to step back and reevaluate your path? And that's okay, because sometimes when we get into that rut, it's because we've done everything that we've needed to do up to that point along that particular path. And the path is about to fizzle out. It's time to make a left turn or a right turn. We're at that proverbial crossroads. And sometimes we're just kind of plodding up to the crossroads because we're so busy focusing on, the steps in front of us that we're not looking around and seeing what else is coming up. So we don't know that there's a crossroads coming. And then suddenly it's there, right in front of you. You're like, oh, no, this came out of nowhere. Well, no, actually, it was, if you'd looked up, you would have seen it coming, 3 months ago. It just all depends on your perspective. Because, yeah, if you're looking at your feet, you cannot see the horizon. You really can't. Unless, of course, you're laying on your back and your feet are pointed at the horizon, but that's something else entirely. So, yeah, maybe it's time to reevaluate because, yeah, you've learned everything on this particular path. Maybe you've been working with a deity for a period of time and it's time to work with a different one. That happens. Sometimes it is. Sometimes as we grow upon our spiritual path, we have to work with different deities or spirits or guides, and that's normal. Or maybe it's time to learn a different aspect of your path. So, for instance, Justin in the chat room, Justin likes to garden and grow things. And at some point, Justin had to stop and think, what do I do now? I'm sure that Justin's like, all right, well, let's start little. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. It's like, woohoo, this thing grew. But at some point, just like any other gardener, myself included, we had to stop and think, is this what we want to grow now? What else are we going to do? Is it the right thing? Is it not the right thing? Maybe I need a different strain or a different variety. I have about 10 different varieties of tomatoes and peppers growing right now. If nothing else, I'm going to have some salsa, some pickled peppers, and some tomato sauce and by the end of the growing season, as long as the sun stays out. So, is it time to learn something new, some different aspect? So for me, something I would love to learn is propagating by splicing fruit trees into different trees or branches or and learning more about that, or tapping the trees to get sap in the spring. I think that'd be fun and interesting. Those different types of things. Would I need to take a class? Yeah, I probably should. Just like if I were to start an apiary or have honeybees, yeah, I should probably take a class on that too. And that's just means I have gotten to a certain point in my gardening career, if you will, that it's time for me to stop, keep doing what I'm doing, but also look to see what other new opportunities there are. So here a while back, I joined a group through Facebook. It's a book club, if you will, and the sole purpose is for us to, read books, read pagan themed books, and we discuss them weekly, and it's a way of holding myself accountable to make sure that I am, feeding my brain something other than the mindless drivel that I can find in Facebook. Because, yeah, there's a lot of that, or TikTok, or YouTube, or TV, or Netflix. There's so much out there that, can distract the ADD brain that, sometimes I need to be held accountable. So maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need a coach. Maybe your spirit guide needs to be more, stand in front of you and say, nope, you need to meditate. Hi, I'm Kat. It's time to step back and, learn the yoga, learn the Reiki, learn different ways to meditate, learn hypnotherapy. There's so many different things that we could learn about our pagan path that when we get in a rut, maybe that's time to look around to see what other options are out there to learn something. One way to do it, honestly, is when you start thinking about your path, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to learn about? What kind of beliefs do you have? What kind of deities do you work with? That kind of thing. And as you write down the different things you want to learn or want to experience, put it in a jar. Cut it up, little piece of paper, stick it in a jar or a hat or whatever. Maybe put it on your altar, or someplace that you're not going to lose it. And pay attention. If you're getting into a rut and you need to do something different to revitalize your path and your energy, pull something out of the jar and, learn about it. or maybe it's a different book you want to read, or what is it? And if you need advice, there are many different online resources, or face-to-face resources to help you learn more about your path and what you are going to do or what you might need to do. Maybe you're not really into being part of a coven or a circle, but it's time for you to join a coven or a circle for a short period of time, because you need to learn in that group environment, because you need that kind of discussion that a group environment would have. And if that's the case, then that's what you do. You take that step back, you look in your community. Is there a group or a coven that you are able to join? And help you to grow along your path, help feed your spiritual needs, not just your physical ones. And that's okay. Or maybe you've been part of a circle or a coven, and you feel like you've learned everything you can within that circle or coven, and you don't really feel like there's anything more that you can learn. Or maybe leadership has changed and their path has diverged from your own. Okay, that's still okay. That's still normal. And if that's the case, maybe it's time to leave your circle. Maybe it's time to do something different. People change churches, for instance, kind of often. Sometimes it's because they move. Sometimes it's because the pastor has changed. Or sometimes it is because the direction of the church has changed. Maybe, just church leadership has changed. Maybe the message has changed. And I've seen it in churches. Like I said, I've tried to be a good Christian, and it didn't work because it's not my path. Quite happy being pagan. And, it's just been part of the process, part of the learning thing. I learned a lot about what I don't want in my path, my spiritual path, by going to church. And interacting with a lot of Christians. Because Christians come in a wide variety, not just, Baptist and Lutheran and Catholic and Protestant, et cetera, but also within each other. Some are Sunday Christians, some are lifestyle Christians, and it varies. Some are just token, I'm here because I'm trying to connect with the congregation so I can sell them something. I've seen that too. And it's sad. It's really sad. That particular individual changes churches every time he's trying to do new insurance groups, which I don't get. To me, that's just really bad karma. But I digress. So, whatever your path is, maybe it's changed. And it is no longer your place to be a part of that congregation. I've experienced it. The last church that I was attending on a regular basis, it was a couple that had a new baby, and they didn't do baptism, shortly after birth. Instead, they did a dedication. So they dedicated the new child to the Christian path, and it was different from what I'd grown up with, and it was kind of the proverbial coffin nail, if you will. It's like, you know what? Is this really something I can get behind? After trying to teach Sunday school and everything else, it's just like, this is not my path. And so I stopped going, and I started, researching a bit more and learning more about myself. I did some therapy. I talked to some folks, read some books, and a few years later, here I am. And it's, rewarding when you stop fighting your internal needs. I mean, sometimes we do it just because we don't know any better, because it's the right thing to do. We're taught to, do the same thing as the rest of our family or our peers. And so when it comes time to break that mold and make that left turn to Albuquerque, it's shocking to our our close community or close family, because they're like, where did this come from? Have you always felt this way? Is this a new thing? Are you part of a cult? Who sucked you into this? Who's trying to convert you? And it's like, no, my path has changed and grown, and now I'm looking for something else. And that's normal. Remember, as we are learning more about our spiritual self, whether you are an Abrahamic faith or a Christian faith, Christian is Abrahamic, or, a pagan path, any of those, as you're learning more about your spiritual self, you're going to grow in fits and bursts and steps and stages, and that's normal. Just like a toddler learning how to walk or talk, Most, 18-month-olds don't sit down and give you a discourse about proofs in geometry. Instead, they're like, monosyllables and lots of noise. Someone who's, late teens, early 20s and going to college for math, that's the one who's going to give you the discourse on geometry. So we're all in different stages in our spiritual growth. And instead of tearing someone down that's in a different place on your spiritual path or similar spiritual path, bolster them, help them. Or is there books that they can read? Speaking of which, I have an email I need to send with some book lists, and I'll post it on the website too, probably tomorrow, so it's done. Because, I got sidetracked this week. It was nice. It was really beautiful. It was really hard to be inside until it was really hard to be outside because it was so bloody hot. Anyways, so remember, our path is varied. It's inconsistent. It's fits and starts. It's bursts and slowdowns and convoluted and complicated. And you need to allow yourself to learn at the pace that you need to. Don't force yourself to go faster than you should. And also, allow other people who are on their own spiritual path to go at their own rate, their own speed. They don't have to rush into, whatever it is, or believe the same way you do because you said they should, or anything like that. We're all on our own different paths, and that's okay. Just support one another, seriously. All right, so on that note, here it is, bottom of the hour, about to go to break. When we come back, we just kind of keep talking about the whole not procrastinating. Sometimes we're just falling back and getting set again before we move forward. If you have questions, send me the email, send me the chat, give me a call, and it'll be good. So we're off to break. We'll be right back, and I'll see you soon. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. And during the break, there was a question in one of the chat rooms from Lou. Lou asked, or he goes, Lou says, Paisley, I realized I have sort of an altar. Can a record player box double as an altar? My response, of course, was, sure, why not? A little bit of explanation. Yeah, it could absolutely be an altar. So many people assume that an altar has to be a special table or shelf or bench or room set aside just for your spiritual practice. Honestly, no. It could be, as I've mentioned in other shows, your altar could technically be a picture that you've painted or purchased or something that has a meaning or gives meaning to your path or a way for you to connect to your path. It doesn't have to be, an altar like, you Google altar and all the different images. Hey, Todd, that show up when you Google altar. A lot of them. Hold on, I'm going to look. Images. Yeah, it looks like a lot of Catholic altars here. There's a big table. There's all sorts of fanciness and statuary and cloths and candles and images and stuff. And does that work for them? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of pomp and dressing up of an altar when they're in a church, for instance. Very rarely are they just a simple bench. Even the Aztecs had an altar. Granted, people died on it on a regular basis, but that's just part of their culture. So yeah, if you have a box that you keep your stuff in, or a drawer that you keep the things in that help you connect to your spiritual path, yes, absolutely could be an altar. It doesn't have to be a crystal ball, like I have. It doesn't have to be statuary. It doesn't have to be candles. It doesn't have to be your broom or besom or anything like that, or singing bowl. Although if you want to, singing bowls are good. Cauldron, whatever. It could be any of those things. It just needs to help you connect to your path. Now, some people say it's not truly an altar if you don't have, some sort of representation of the deities or spirits that you work with, or, the different elements, air, water, fire, spirit, earth. So it could be, just honestly, do you have a plant in a pot? That could technically be your altar, guys. Oh, it's Mr. Longbeard.
Good night.
Good night, Don. So yeah, your altar could be whatever it is helping you connect. Maybe it's something on your keychain, honestly. Something that you can carry in your pocket. Those little mini altar tins that people are making out of the mint tins. Sure. If that helps you to connect to your path and your spirituality, sure, use it. And yeah, incense is good. Incense is a great way to honor your ancestors or the divine, however it is. It could be a candle. It could be essential oils. It could be spirits like, alcohol of some sort, wine, something like that. It doesn't always have to be incense, but if, that was something that your spirit guides, for instance, you connect with them better through a specific type of incense, then yeah, do it. Or you use one for, the different Sabbats, sure, do it. It's, whatever it is that is helping you to connect. I'm too much of an intuitive witch to say you have to follow the specific rules. However, if you are part of a specific tradition, often there are guidelines. And if that's the case, then you should probably follow the guidelines within your specific tradition. Yeah, that's just kind of, if that's the case, talk to your leadership and say, hey, what do I need to do differently? How do I connect? What do I got to do? And, well, follow their guidelines. Or, there are a couple books out there about different altars and the things you can put on there and the different correspondences to, say, plants or trees or flowers or herbs or, oils or anything like that. So it's, you just gotta pick what's the best thing for you. Yeah. Iced tea mixed with coffee. Kind of a weird thing, but that's okay. All right, so I hope that helped, Lou. I hope that answered your question, and probably went on a little bit more than you needed, but yeah. If your record box works, then use it. In some ways, using something like a record box or, like I said, a drawer in a dresser or cabinet or something is a great way to conceal your altar, if you will, if you are still in the pagan pantry or the broom closet. If you're not out to everybody in your circle of friends and you feel compelled to kind of keep it tucked away and out of sight, then do it. Use the tools that you have. You don't have to have something super duper fancy. Often it's the intent or the emotional connection between the items that are on your altar that'll have a much grander meaning and better meaning to you in your specific path. Justin makes a really good point in the chat. Justin says, don't be afraid to be your own leadership as well. Sometimes you just know what you need in your path to follow. Yes, absolutely true. About 5 years ago? Yeah, it's been 5 years. Holy cow. I was kind of seeking and looking for someone to be more of a mentor for me on my spiritual journey, because I felt I was at that point where I needed a little bit more guidance. And so, yeah, I was trying to find someone. And bloody hell, do you know how hard it is to find a pagan if you're not an active part of the pagan community sometimes? Yeah, we're a lot rarer 5 years ago, even 10 years, even more so. Not so much rare as just quieter on the down low. Since then, I've learned to, there's some different things about a person that I can pick up on. It's like, oh, I get it. Or sometimes it's in their aura or their energy. It's like, oh, I get it. I know who you are, and I'm going to connect with you in a different way than I would have, somebody I don't know or I can't get a feeling from. Some people are so obvious on their spiritual path, their aura just says, this is who I am. And if you connect with that and you can see it and experience it, awesome. If you can't, that's okay. It's okay. Not everybody does. Not everybody has the same skill set either. When it comes to spirituality and witchcraft and such, we're all a little different, and very, very normal. So next on my to-do list to talk about is just a little bit of that procrastination that we sometimes get when it comes to, our path. Because, we get in that rut and it's hard to step out of it. And so what do? Well, that's part of the reason why we put our ideas in a jar, the things we want to learn, the things we are working on. You can do a thankfulness jar. Honestly, Pinterest has so many ideas on how to, get out of the rut. It's insane, and I can't go through all of them because, oh my goodness. But one that I do like is, have a jar. Have a thoughtfulness jar. So pick a happy thing to say every day, write it down, put it in the jar. On your birthday, open the jar and read all the things. Talk about a really good present to yourself. Yeah, a jar full of happiness. Why not? Or do it as a gift. So, whatever. Maybe it's for your teenager, because teenagers often have a hard time connecting with parents anyways. You write down something positive about that person every doggone day. Every day. And you give it to them on their birthday or Christmas or whatever, Yule. And it's a way to help them to celebrate themselves and show them that they cause someone to smile every day or to feel love or joy. And that is a huge gift. Very huge. Justin also says, Paisley, I've definitely experienced that with many people that consider themselves to be leaders of groups, and most of the time it just doesn't jive with me. Yeah, true statement there. There have been a few groups I've tried to be a part of. I'm like, no, back away slowly. Don't make any sudden movements. We're going to be okay. And then duck and run. Because, yeah, not all groups are created equal. And sometimes you connect with leadership, but the other people within the group give you the EBGBs. Follow your gut. Your gut's probably telling you something that you need to pay attention to. It's amazing how loud our intuition can be when we start listening to it intentionally and focusing on it and tuning it just a bit, because, yeah, our intuition can be quite loud and can really see things that we wouldn't normally see because it's not in our consciousness. Subconscious, yes. Consciousness, no. So, how do you get past the procrastination? Honestly, the hardest bit of advice ever is you just have to do. There's no super secret recipe. There's no special sauce. There's no grand plan. There's some things that are a good idea, different things that you can do, but you listen to your inner Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. Yeah, just do it. And sometimes it's the little thing. So, like for me, I get in the habit of pouring out a little bit of coffee or tea or something in the morning. It's like, woohoo, here's my drink. Or Groot, my oak tree, if he's in the house, which he's not. He's out on the deck right now, enjoying the weather. And pour a little water or tea or something, juice, into the dirt with him, and just a way of honoring the energy within. And it's when I am doing that without pausing to reflect that I realize that I am in my rut and I have to do something different. And sometimes change is hard. So that first step out of the rut to stop procrastinating, because once you start, it's so easy to continue. Sometimes you just gotta take that first step. And it's hard, especially say you journal and you've gotten to the habit of journaling every day. And then say you ended up out of town or family over, or maybe you're sick and you just didn't get a chance to journal for a couple of days in a row. And you go to journal and you're like, I'm just too tired. I can't do it, because you do it at night at the end of the day. I can't do it. And it happens 2 or 3 days in a row. And suddenly, you stop and think, like, wow, it's been like 5 months since I wrote anything in my journal. I'm a bad person. Well, no, you're not. You just got in the habit of not doing the thing. So, just, pick up the pen and paper or whatever tool you use and just write a quick note to yourself. Like, yep, it's been a while. I forgot to tell you some things. But I'm back now, and so this is what's going on. And you just let the words flow. Or if they don't flow, it's like, I need to get back to doing this. I'm out of practice. But I'm starting. I'm starting today. And I'll be back tomorrow to write some more. And you just start. Because you can't clean the kitchen if you don't start doing the dishes. You can't sweep the floor if you don't start by picking up the broom. You can't do any of the tasks that you have on your to-do list every day if you don't just start doing them. You can't brush your teeth if you don't start by picking up the toothbrush. Now, and all of those beginnings, they're little bitty, teeny tiny beginnings. And it's like 1 step here, 2 steps there. But by the end of the day, you've added them all up, and suddenly you've gone miles. You've achieved the big things that you were setting out to achieve. So yeah, say you have a goal that's really, really huge. I wrote a book. That was kind of a big goal for me. It was something I really, really wanted to do. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. I sat down, I did it. Actually, the wording was cake. Sat down, busted that out in about 20 minutes. And it's like, great, so I've got this thing. Now what do I do? And it took me another 6 months to figure out what it was I was going to do. And then another 6 weeks after that to actually get it done. It's a big deal. But just by putting pen to paper and writing it, I got started. And then once I got the written part done, I'm like, oh, I got to get this next part done. I got to do this and I got to do that. Just like I wrote another book. I have it and I print it out, so I have it for reference as I'm illustrating. But I'm about a third of the way through the rough illustrations. I'll have to go back through and fine-tune them and add some color because it's just line drawing right at the moment. But I've started. And anytime I start thinking, man, this is so much. This is just, how do people do this every day? And blah. I put all those mental barriers up. I have to stop and think, no, I can do this. I already did it once. I can do it again. It's not a new path for me. I'm walking the same path I already did. And it's like, it helps me to remember that it's not a hard thing to do. I just have to keep going. I have to keep that momentum going. Or if I stall out completely, sometimes you just do the deep cleansing breath and pick up your pen and go. Or take a drink of coffee and go. Whatever works to get your butt in gear. All of us, every single one of us, when it comes to trying to accomplish a task, we know how to get ourselves into gear. We really do. We know the things that motivate us. Some people are money motivated, for instance. Some are recognition motivated. Some are accomplishment motivated. We're all a little different. And those different motivations help us to realize our dreams and what it is we want to accomplish or do in life. Those who are money motivated often end up in sales jobs or high pressure sales kind of things, and they're driven to make the bigger bucks. Some are motivated to teach because they want to help people learn. Well, those are probably going to be your educators. Not necessarily in a school system, but educators maybe in the workforce or the workplace. Maybe, in a conference or a workshop that you might attend. Those are the people who are helping you to learn more about yourself, whatever they are, or whatever it is. And Todd's right. Todd's dropping a couple of gifts into the chat room. They're like, you can do it. What are you waiting for? Just do it. Yes, just do it. And so once the inertia of not moving, because that is a real thing, is stuck in place. It's like you're stuck on, your brakes are stuck in the on position. You take that first step, right? That gets your momentum going. Because once you take one step, the second step's a lot easier. The third step's just a little bit easier. Fourth step is even more easier. And you just keep going and going and going. And you start building your inertia to accomplish the goals rather than your inertia to stop and sit still. So you got a big project at home to tackle. Maybe you have to clean the garage. That's a big deal. Or maybe maybe you need to clean your own room. This one's always been a hard one for me. As a kid, I was a slob. Now I'm just really cluttered. It's a different level of slob, I guess. And I'd walk into my room and I'd be like, ugh, my room's a pigsty. Can't believe I'm doing this. Can't believe I gotta clean. But it'd be so overwhelming because I just would walk in. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just a mess. And you gotta start somewhere. Generally, I started with making my bed. It's like, oh, well, the bed's made. Well, now what? oh, well, let's pick up this and let's put that away and let's do that. And, I've read all these books, let's put them back on the shelf. And, whatever it was. And, one thing would lead to the next and to the next. And, because I start off with just that one thing, it's like, all right, I got that thing done. I can see that it's done. Yeah, it helps you to get the momentum going. So, yeah, that first step, sometimes it needs to be a big deal. And maybe, like making the bed is really obvious. If you walk into a room that's a pigsty, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, I can't handle this. And you step out and you step back in and the bed's made. You're like, oh, this room is a mess, but look at the bed, it's really nice. Let's make the rest of the room match. Or maybe your kitchen's a disaster area. Well, what do you need to get motivated to get it cleaned? Well, after the morning after a big holiday meal, sometimes I'm like, my kitchen's a disaster. What do I got to do? I need coffee. So I make coffee. And then while the coffee's thinking, I get the dishes going. And then while the dishes are going, I'm drinking the coffee. And then I get the dishes done, I'm drinking the coffee, I make the breakfast. And now the breakfast is done, let's do the dishes, And it just kind of leads on. It's like, oh, this is all done, I got to sweep the floor. So, it's sometimes you have to pick something that's an obvious accomplishment. Like, if the coffee's done, it smells phenomenal. And then you take the baby steps to keep going. Let's see, Justin in the chat says, we really need better educators for our children. We can teach them, but they need community interaction, and we have to keep those people in check. Lou agrees. Yeah. So Mini-Me, we started off homeschooling her this year. For the school year we're just wrapping up. And about halfway through, circumstances changed, and she went back to school. And in a way, the education aspect was, she'd kind of regressed a little bit, and because the things she's been going over for the last 6 weeks, she was already done with. And so she was ahead of her age group, I suppose. But socially, she needed that interaction with her age group. And that's something she missed out on for almost a year. Sure, she goes to jiu-jitsu, and we have play dates and other things that we go do. But it's, I don't know, it's hard. And looking forward to this next school year, the jury's still out. Homeschool or keep her in the public school system. It kind of depends on what happens in, say, the next 8 to 9 weeks. And we have no problem putting her back, homeschooling. But, it's not for the faint of heart. Not everybody can homeschool, and I get it. Yeah, Lou is talking about history and stuff. Yep. Pyramids of Giza, how's the pharaoh mummies? No, not quite. Yeah. History is written by the victors or the conquerors, however you want to look at it. And often, when it comes to history, it's viewed through the lenses of the writer or the contemporary person who's writing the books, rather than of the time period. So, for instance, talking about Egyptian history, it's written from a Westerner's viewpoint and understanding and comprehension, and often not really getting all of the ducks in a row and lined up according to reality. It's just an interpretation of reality, so it's not necessarily fact, not necessarily fiction, but some kind of weird combination of both. So how to fix the procrastination? Well, you just start doing. And you know what? If you are stuck in the procrastination phase and it's having a hard time to get going, pick something that is going to help you get going, the momentum going. Pick the small task that has a big impact. Make the coffee. Make the bed. The task I loathe the most in the bathroom is cleaning the toilet. I hate it. I've hated toilets my entire life. I grew up in using an outhouse, and that's probably has something to do with it. There's just, yeah. And, So yeah, it bothers me. But if I'm cleaning the toilet, I'm cleaning the entire rest of the bathroom, for crying out loud, because if I have one thing clean, the rest of it is no. Like, I'll start sweeping the floor. It's like, okay, this is swept, that's swept. Gotta vacuum the rugs. Oh, gotta do this, gotta do that. Oh, time to rush the throw rugs, this and that, and A leads to B leads to C. Once I get going, we're doing good. Anyways, so procrastination. Do the thing, find your trigger to get your butt going. And it's got to be the little thing with a big impact. And on that note, we're at the top of the hour already. Cannot believe how fast our nights fly sometimes. And when we come back, we'll do some singing bowl. And I'm going to talk about summer solstice just a little bit, because holy cow, it is coming right up. It's just insane. All right, we will be right back. Hello, my lovelies. How you doing? It's a day that ends in Y. Sometimes it's a morning, sometimes it's an evening. Hi all. Alright, so it's singing bowl time because it's top of the hour. Singing bowl. So, speaking of singing bowl, love the bowl. Love the sound that makes. Holy cow. That thing just gets so loud sometimes. For those of you in the chat rooms and listening in, you can either leave me a message in the chat or send me an email at wildpaisley@gmail.com. But I was thinking about doing a Monday meditation on YouTube as a live thing. I haven't quite decided yet exactly what that would look like. But I do have a full set of singing bowls, so I could do chakra based or something like that. Just, sometimes, again, it's amazing. We all are able to do the things on our own because we know we can. But sometimes you just need to do some. It's easier to go to the gym, for instance, with someone, go to the new club with someone, go to the new bar with someone, coffee shop with someone. How often do you drag someone with you to do something that you haven't done before? Me? Every chance I get. I will occasionally road trip into Spokane Valley to purchase some stuff because it's just time to purchase the stuff. And I have yet to make that trip by myself. I generally have someone with me because, you know what? Why not? It's a funner trip if you have a friend with you too. So, yeah. So, yeah. It's just, yeah. All right. So, talking about summer solstice, which is coming up. So the summer solstice, just so you know, it's just, we have one in summer solstice. We got the winter solstice in December. So, generally about June 21st is summer solstice. It's the first day of summer. And December 22nd is the first day of winter. Here in the northern hemisphere, it's reversed in the southern hemisphere. So it's rapidly approaching the middle of winter in the south. So Marie, sorry, you're in the middle of winter. So yeah, basically with the solstice coming up, it's here in the top half of the world, or in the north end of the world, I should say. The poles are shifted slightly, so we're tilted towards the sun, and the southern pole is tilted away from the sun. That's the thing that's happening. And this year, the solstice will be on the 20th, so it's just the way the calendar works. Sometimes I wonder why we have a 12-month calendar instead of a 13. That's just, I would have based it on the moons, honestly. Yeah, so here in the north, it means, yay, first day of summer. It's the longest day of the year up north, and shortest night. And so I'm just looking at the history of it. Sometimes I read things as I'm trying to talk, and it's like, I shouldn't have done that. I get distracted, and I just want to read about the stuff because it's interesting, like the science of the solstice. Solstice is a combination of the Latin word sol, which means sun, and stit, or stays, meaning standing still, or standing or still. So it's solstitium, or solstice. The Romans apparently decided that observation that during a solstice, the sun's position at noon doesn't seem to change much throughout the day, but instead appeared motionless. So, yeah. So that's the name, and it talks about blah, blah, blah. I'll include the link to this article in the show notes. So, with the solstice for paganism, it's also considered the Sabbat of Litha, which is Litha, and it's the celebration of the power of the sun god. So magic is often considered to be strongest during the summer months, and summer solstice specifically. And it's amazing. So often as I'm reading different articles, I see different references, and it's like this particular one is something I'm like, really? It says that the veil between this world and the next is thin. You ever read something, you're like, oh, for Pete's sake, did you guys miss something? So basically, it's more. There's just magic is a little stronger with this because of the sun god. Often ashes from the midsummer bonfire can be put into an amulet to be worn or spread around your garden, worn as a protection amulet or spread on your garden to help with your harvest. So scientifically, ash is actually really good sometimes for your garden, depending on what you're trying to grow. If you got wood ash, your chickens will love it because it's good for them. Let's see, you can also create a sun wheel. It's a wheel or a ball of straw was used to be lit on fire and then rolled down the hill into a river. If the fire went out before it hit the water, then a good harvest was guaranteed. I think that's interesting and amusing. It'd be fun to watch and participate in, just not here locally because we tend to be a little dry this time of year, and the last thing I want to do is set the world on fire because that would be bad. Pretty much any of the pagan cultures or traditions have some sort of celebration for the sun. People have been celebrating, the strength of the sun pretty much forever because, growing things are growing, the grass is green, the flowers have bloomed, the fruit is growing. I know my little plum tree, which is not, as happy as it was this time last year because windstorms, but it's still there. I've got fruit on it. A friend of mine has an apple tree. Little bitty teeny tiny apples are growing on it. And so you can see, how things are going. You can see that things are growing. And you can celebrate it. The solstice is a celebration of things growing. Let's see. Romans, Romans honored the solstice as a sacred time to Juno, the wife of Jupiter, and goddess of women and childbirth. And so her name actually gives us the month of June. And that's a little interesting tidbit. So there's quite a few ancient traditions that are pre-Christian that we know happened because there's archaeological records of it. But often any of the folklore around it or the stories around it were written by early Christian monks. So often the deities from ancient times are altered slightly through the veil or the lens of Christianity. Not necessarily because they were trying to, corrupt the histories and the stories, but because often, like with the pagan deities, they wanted to make them look worse than they really were. So of course they're going to write, hey, this is a really bad dude. And, oh my gosh, bad. And look, Christianity's so good. Because that was part of their job. So a lot of the writings that we have are, just written stories of, or written records of verbal stories or verbal histories because they're passed down verbally from one generation to the next. And yes, often skewed through, the lens of the writer. So in some of the writings, early Celts celebrated the midsummer or solstice with hilltop bonfires that they were lit to honor the space between the earth and the heavens because the hilltop was as close to the sky or the heavens as you could get. Even today in Britain, St. John is celebrated. St. John's Eve is celebrated in Ireland by lighting a big bonfire. But yeah, it's just originally part of the midsummer festivities. in addition to the polarity between land and sky. Litha is a time to find balance between fire and water. So there's a book called The Pagan Family that might be a good read for y'all. And the author writes about the different things to celebrate the solstice. Too many words. With the lighting of the fire wheels, and how to use the water to mitigate the heat of the day, and by dousing the sun wheel in water, it helps to prevent drought. It's the celebration and the balance of the fire and water. Apparently, the solar wheels or the flaming wheels have been around pretty much since the wheel was invented. And it was very, very common in Northern Europe. Even almost to, I'd say in the early 1900s, mid 1900s, and then it started to kind of died out because, there for a while pagans were really frowned upon. But yeah, I still like celebrating solstice with a big bonfire because, hello, why not? It's a bonfire. I can have s'mores, right? Okay, maybe not s'mores. I gotta tell you, sometimes, side note, this gluten-free thing, it's a weird adventure. I made tapioca pudding today. Gluten-free, egg-free. Actually, it wasn't egg-free. I had to use egg whites. And, yeah. It's good. Just weird. Let's see. So, yeah, Juno was the patroness of marriage. So, yeah, June's very, very popular for weddings. It's amazing. Such a big deal that everybody makes a big deal about weddings and such. They do it in June because Juno, a pagan deity. Yeah, that's what the month of June was named after. So, yeah, just interesting. So there. Oh, children in chat, y'all are hilarious. So in some traditions, Litha is a time in which there's a battle between light and dark. So the Oak King is seen as the ruler of the year between winter solstice and summer solstice, and the Holly King is from summer to winter. And at each solstice, they battle for power. And so the Oak King may be in charge of things at the beginning of June. By the end of midsummer, he's defeated by the Holly King. Now, there is some thought that the Oak King and the Holly King are just the duality of nature that is Kninos. In my research and my understanding, pretty much every deity has a duality in nature. Not necessarily good and bad, but light and dark, I should say. Because it's just... magic is magic. Magic is energy. There's no good energy. There's no bad energy. Too much energy could be bad. Not enough energy is bad. Whatever it is, magic is energy. So, it's just light energy, dark energy. That is the magic. Holly King and Oak King, just the two faces or the duality of nature for Knunos. Because too much light, can burn your crops. But the right amount of lightness and warmth can help your crops grow and flourish. And, remember, a lot of pagan beliefs and traditions started with, ancient farmers and hunter-gatherers and stuff. So there's a lot of tradition surrounding raising food, growing, harvesting, preserving food, preparing for winter, that kind of a thing. And so... that being said, that was ancient times trying to transfer a lot of the ancient practices and traditions as we understand them to contemporary days. So, for modern pagans, solstice, summer solstice, is a day of power and brightness. And it's a really good time to meditate on both the darkness and the light in your world and how to balance them. And it could be not just in your personal life, but your work life, your school life, your family life, different aspects of your family life, say your significant other or your children. Because, if you ever wonder about the duality of nature of humanity, talk to a tired 3-year-old. They go from ha 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 in a good mood to screaming, crying, angry. Yeah. Yeah. So, if you have a chance to celebrate Litha outside, yeah, do it. It's great. Have your kiddos play in the water. Isn't that just really awesome? A way to celebrate Litha with your kids? Go play in the water. Go to the lake. Splash in the lake. Go to the river. Go find a fountain. Turn the garden hose on. Have a barbecue. Celebrate the family, the togetherness, the lazy days of summer. And sometimes it's also a good time to reward the kiddos with let him stay up late. Say goodnight to the sun. Say good morning or hello to hello to the stars or the night sky. Even though 4th of July is just around the corner for us here in the U.S., well, it's a good time to go get sparklers. Because, you could celebrate nightfall with sparklers. It's the light. It's symbolic of the light, fighting the dark. Tell stories, talk about the ancient traditions and the different beliefs. And about how, the different aspects, the different dualities of the different deities come together and impact our lives even today. June is really a good time to, celebrate a hand fasting. Enjoy the togetherness of family and your spiritual connectedness. June or the solstice is also a good time to dedicate yourself to your deities or that you work with, the divinity that you work with. If you have a chance to sit and meditate and really focus on your inner self, it's also a really good time to connect with any of your spirit guides or your ancestors. What is it? You can have, often we talk about dumb dinners with the approach of Samhain, but it's something you could do at any point to honor your ancestors. And dumb doesn't mean stupid. Dumb means quiet. So a silent celebration and a way of honoring those who are no longer with us. Here we just celebrated Veterans Day, or Memorial Day, excuse me. Memorial Day was last year. Holy cow. What is today? It was just this past Monday is Memorial Day. So, honoring those that have passed. It's a good time to celebrate the life that they had. Often we get so focused on mourning the loss that we need to remember to celebrate the life, celebrate the impact that their life had upon us. I mean, like, we wouldn't be here if our grandparents didn't get together and connect in some fashion. So, celebrate their relationship. It's a good time to just celebrate life in general, and life and growing things. Let's see. There's so much out there. Wow. And it's amazing as I do research, often, we get tied up in the different research that we're doing and stuff to learn about different things in our lives. And it's been interesting to me the amount of research I've done over the years doing the show here. When I first started this, the YouTube show and on Truth Frequency Radio, there wasn't as much information online as there is today. Oh my goodness gracious me. Now, that being said, there's a lot of misinformation out there, so you do have to really pay attention to the things that are being written. Because some of it, is written, some of it's fan fiction, some of it's World of Warcraft, some of it's Harry Potter stuff. And yeah, it's frustrating because I'll be reading something online. It's like, oh, this is a really good article or a really good blog post. And then I'll get down to the end of it and it's like, oh, Harry Potter, huh? World of Warcraft, Magic the Gathering, awesome. Oh, you LARP, even better. LARP, just so you know, LARP, live action roleplay. They're fun people too. So yeah, just pay attention and what's going on in what you're reading, and take notes. That it's important. Yeah, take the notes. Make sure you're doing the things and cross-reference. Often we can go to our local library and actually get a physical book. They're not dying out completely yet. And read the physical book. Yeah, the really good ones should have some sort of index so you can really kind of dive in for the specific things you're looking for. And yeah, cross-reference what you're seeing online with the books that you read. And this is where journaling is a really, really good thing because you're writing about what you're learning. And you can always use that information to go back and it's like, oh, I remember I was researching blah, 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 blah. And I know I wrote something down. I don't want to forget it. And you go back. It's like, oh, that's what it was. And those are the things, actually, the things that you really want to remember, the things that are really becoming part of your path and part of your practice. Those are the things you write in your Book of Shadows. Not just your spells, not just your rituals, your correspondences, that kind of thing, but also the things that become a building block or a foundational block of your spiritual path. Maybe it's your family tree. Maybe it's learning about the deities that your ancestors worshipped. I know that I come from a very strong Germanic and Northern Ireland background. And so Kanunos and Hecate are pretty much, yeah, that's exactly who I'm supposed to be working with because, well, they just feel right. Kind of like fuzzy slippers. They're just comfortable. But also I feel a pretty strong connection to a lot of the Nordic deities. But that's just because that's where my roots are. Also, as you're doing your research and you're learning more about your spiritual path, follow your intuition. Because your spiritual path may not be what others think it should be. For instance, if voodoo calls to you, okay. So what if you're blonde and blue-eyed and you are from Montana? I'm just pulling random things out of my head. It's okay. It's the traditions or the spiritual path that you choose to follow often calls to you for a specific reason. So maybe culturally you don't resemble the spiritual path that you're following right now, today, but you did in a previous life. And as we're, going through the motions and living the lives that we are and to die and be born again into our tradition, our spiritual path, often it's because we didn't finish something in the previous life and we have to do it in this one. And that's, it's just part of what we got to do. And so sometimes your spiritual path doesn't necessarily match your skin color or your culture. And don't judge other people. I'm going to talk about that when I come back. Just and I'm going to drive that one home. I think a little bit more. Just stop judging people based upon their beliefs or what they look like or what they do, and it's just, I could probably talk about that for the next 6 hours because it just kind of burns me a little bit when I see people judging others because their beliefs are a little different. Anyways, bottom of the hour. It's our last break here in just a few short seconds, and then yeah, we'll finish up for the night and get some sleep, and we'll start over again. Or do the thing like poor Marie has to do. She's just getting up in the morning and having her coffee. So, off to break. We'll be right back. And if you do have questions, by all means, drop me an email, wildpaisley@gmail.com, or send me a chat message. See you in a few.
Sisters of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me. The songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. So, let's see. We've talked about getting out of the rut, fighting the procrastination, summer solstice or Litha, so the last little bit here that I wanted to talk about is that keyboard warriors exist. Anybody who's ever sat in front of a computer to read an article and read the commentary after it, yeah, you know, keyboard warriors are out there. Or someone who writes something inflammatory in Helio, in an online forum, and everybody loses their ever-loving mind. Yeah, it happens. And there's always, there's stuff. Oh, Leah just got done watching Raya and the Last Dragon. That's a really good movie. It's very, very cute. I liked it. I've watched it twice now. So yes, it's a good movie. Watch it. Often we see people who, in the privacy of their own home, or, a car or wherever it is on their side of the keyboard or phone or whatever, they're really ready to type out whatever comment without stopping to think about how it's going to be read or how it might impact of everybody else. It's like so often, and I see this a lot in our social media forums that I participate with on Facebook, is people will say something and they forget that everybody else has, opinions and thoughts, and it's like they assume that their own opinion is the only one that has any value or the only one that matters, and any other ideas are bunk. They're just BS and not worth the time to read it, or maybe they only read the headline. They don't actually read the whole article, and so they're basing their entire commentary on the headline, totally missing the meat and potatoes of the article. There's that too. It's like, yeah. So it's interesting to me the way people respond to different things that are posted online. I remember with Hectic Eclectics, when we were first starting to get together to have coffee and kind of that fellowship. Black Tree posted something on social media, one of the Facebook chat groups, and holy cow, she got ripped up one side and down the other. Like, shame on you, pagan coffee, whatever, shame on you. And it was insane to me because, like, you know what? I don't go onto the Christian forums and, rip on them at all. That's not my purpose in life. I'm just, not that angry, I guess. That's not my thing. So, that whole holier than thou art attitude that sometimes we see online. I saw it, I still see it, this last couple of election cycles. Wow. There's some good points made, but when you're so busy yelling at one another, nobody hears any of the information. So yeah, be careful of the words you're putting out there. Because they're going to impact the people who are reading them. Especially when it comes to paganism, which is not as mainstream, slowly getting there. So it's working on it. But yeah, the pagan world is really big, and it's diverse. It's very complex. Lots of different beliefs, traditions, that kind of thing. And if we can have a good conversation about those different beliefs, different traditions, I think that's a great thing. That's a great opportunity to learn more about one another and what we believe. But if you say, well, you're not pagan enough to believe that, or you're not old enough to understand paganism, or you're not this because blah, or you're not spiritual enough because you don't follow a deity. I have seen that one, which I think is ridiculous. Or, your magic won't work because you're talking to the wrong deity, or if you don't meditate every day, you're not really a witch, or there's just so much inanity and misinformation out there that gets posted again and again and again that, it's insulting. It's not productive. It's foolish, honestly, because as an intuitive witch, who am I to say that somebody else's belief path isn't the right one? Well, for them, it's obviously the right one. It may not be mine, and that's okay. I'm not harmed by somebody else's belief path and their spiritual path, their deities they work with. That doesn't impact me, so why would I judge them for it? If they have a question and they want some help, yeah, I will definitely do my best. But that's okay. And now paganism, isn't quite a recognized religion because it's so diverse. Wicca here in the U.S. is recognized as a religion, so that's really helped witches across the country and pagans by default. But paganism often has people who don't believe in deities. They scoff at magic, and that's okay, because we also have those who work with multiple deities and those that work magic. And, you can't just say paganism is the label, because there's so many different paths, so many different traditions. And to say someone is not pagan because they don't have an altar, that one drives me insane too. Well, hey, Naysay, long time no giggle. Hope you're doing good, my dear. So, if you don't do a ritual every full moon, does that mean you're not a pagan? Well, no, that's not what it means. It just means you haven't had an opportunity to do a ritual every full moon. That's okay. And not everybody does a ritual every full moon. It's okay. Sometimes we're busy at work, sometimes we're dealing with family, sometimes we've got sick kiddos, sometimes we're tired because we are doing all the things all the time, and sometimes stress just doesn't allow us to unwind enough to really appreciate doing the ritual on a full moon. If that means you look out the window as the moon comes up, you're like, whew, hi moon, how's it going? And that's the extent of your ritual. Okay, don't beat yourself up for it. That doesn't mean you're not a pagan. It just means you're tired. And we need to, not only stop judging other people and their path and their situation and their tradition, we also need to allow ourselves to grow upon our own spiritual path and not try to force ourselves into a belief set that doesn't fit. It's like wearing shoes that are 2 sizes too small. It's not comfortable. Don't do it. Sometimes the reason why people are being so judgmental online is not just because they're a keyboard warrior, but maybe they had poor teachers. Growing up, they learned that you're supposed to call out people to help educate them. Maybe you think you know it all and you're trying to educate someone else. Well, if you're not someone who is Wiccan, a follower of Wicca, you probably shouldn't be trying to school somebody who is Wicca. I'm just kind of, it's just baffled at how people can be sometimes. So, just, understand that sometimes, people get judged for being pagan, regardless of what their tradition is, just because people don't always understand what paganism can be or should be. Naysay says being a parent is the most unappreciative job you'll ever love, especially when you have a 17-year-old going on 30. Yes. Absolutely, yes. Oh, deep cleansing breath there. Yes. So, if, so let's see, just trying to see here. I'm checking or using an article from pathos.com, and I'll include the link in the show notes like I always do. This is a really good article, I think, or the paragraph. It says there are some who only see paganism as a religious endeavor. The author, became a pagan because of deity, but author is also smart enough to realize that it's not the only thing out there that attracts people to paganism today. Paganism is more than just pagan deities, ceremonial magic, and nature religion. If something speaks to a self-identified pagan as a spiritual practice, well, then it's a way to practice paganism. So they have some other examples here. Cooking, kitchen witchery. I mean, do you cook? Do you add spices? Any time that you are preparing food, you could infuse it with magic. You're being in touch with the natural world. Magic is energy, remember? Magic is transformative. So cooking and preparing food, very transformative. Anything you're doing in the kitchen, yeah, very, very transformative. So, that's just part of your path. If there's no set way to be a kitchen witch. I have about 150 different cookbooks. It means I have 150 different ways to be a cook in the kitchen. Loosely translated, I have about 150 ways of being a kitchen witch. They're all valid. Maybe you do social justice as your call. But again, that can tick people off, so be prepared. But social justice is an attempt to make the world a more fair and equitable place. So the author feels that if our gods want us to be happy, they have to assume that they like it when we work to make happiness more available to everyone. So social justice is big magic. It's an attempt to change the world. Very much so, or at least the communities we live in better. Naysay says, proud to be a born-again pagan. Yep. Apparently there is, they call it, the author here calls it Instagram magic, but we'll call it social media magic. There is a lot of witch aesthetic or pagan aesthetic on Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook or YouTube even. And it's been interesting because some of it is very, very witchy and magic type of stuff, and some of it is very more self-empowerment. And sometimes pretty pictures, do help others connect with the divine or connect with the message. But, if that helps you, okay, cool. But you don't have to, post pictures of every part of your practice on social media. Keep part of it to yourself. Part of your spiritual path should be sacred to you, that you don't just put out there for every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Jane to comment on or soak up. So, I have an altar. I have taken a picture of it. Hold on. Excuse me. I mostly have a picture of it so I remember it, not so that I can post it, because I don't feel compelled to post it on social media. Do I think it takes away the magic and the strength of it? No, not really. But it's mine. For me, it's kind of like taking a picture of my underwear drawer and posting it on social media. Why would I do that? I mean, use a little common sense and logic. We all have it. It's not a superpower or superpowers. Common sense and logic are traits that we should all have. And they put it this way: if you don't want your grandparents to look at it, why would you put it on social media? Or your own children. If you don't want your children to see it, you know what? Yeah, no. Why would you put it out there? So, social media for me is a way to connect with family and friends and share some uplifting things and stuff like that. Connect with people, but that's it. So, and remember what people post in social media regarding their practice, whether it's witchcraft or, paganism or some other tradition, just let them, be themselves. And it's okay. Just take a deep cleansing breath. Don't judge them for the way they practice. And don't let people judge you for the way you practice. Leo has an 8-year-old. Yeah. Mini-Me is turning 7 in a few short weeks. And, yeah, she's 6 going on 16. And sassy. And she will not wear certain ensembles out of her closet because they're just not her style. And she says that with the hip out and the hand and the, yeah. Just listening or checking the chat. So let's see, another way people practice, going on a walk. Honestly, if you go walking or jogging or running or something like that, often when you're out in nature like that, it's a really good way to connect with your path, your spirituality, because it's a way for you to just kind of hang out and talk to the deities that are out there. Running as you meditate. Yep, that's a thing. It's a really easy way to honor the nature around you. Thank you, Justin. I sneezed on air. I'm sorry, guys. Yes, it's a little bitty sneeze. Often it's a big lead up to a itty bitty bitty sneeze. So, as you're out jogging and walking, experiencing nature, it's really just a good way to notice the birds, notice the plant life around you, notice nature. It's not necessarily nature worship, it's just enjoying nature. Drinking wine responsibly is a better way to practice paganism than being irresponsible with wine. But share a glass of wine with your friends, or tea, or coffee, or whatever it is. It's a, it used to be breaking bread, if you will, with company. It was a way of showing that you're going to be at peace with them for a period of time. And, until sundown or the following morning or whatever. There's a lot of tradition involved in, hosting the, people. And so being able to, connect with people, over, food and drink is often a really great way to not just participate in fellowship with someone who has like practices and like beliefs, but is also a way to show the deities that you work with, or either your ancestors or spirits or what have you, that you celebrate all life, that you are willing to work with others, and you're honoring traditions from yesteryear, if you will. And if you are at home doing this and you pour out a little bit of your wine, or a little bit of your food is left out for the wildlife, whatever, it's a really great way to offer sustenance to the land whites, or the energy around you, or the deities that you work with. And as you're doing your research, again, we're doing research, right? And we're journaling the different things that resonate with us. What connects with you? What do you feel called to do? And if you're wondering what your path should look like, or what your spiritual practice should look like, well, stop and think about it. What helps you to feel connected to the divine? As much as I don't like mornings because they come too stinking early, I also love mornings because often the air is fresh and clean, and it's just the energy is just ready to grab onto and use. It hasn't been, colored by the events of the day or the things I've read on the news or anything like that. It's just there's so much potential, the newness. That's awesome. Um, you know, find a way to connect with your spirituality and your spiritual path. So even though I don't like being up early, often I am because, yeah. And when I am, I'm outside, and I'll pour out the little bit of my breakfast or as a contribution to the deities that I work with and the land whites because I want to honor them. And that's just something that's evolved over time. That's part of my ret that I like. But, what calls to you? Is it the early morning thing? Is it the late evening thing? Is it the high noon? What is it to leave a little bit? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Leo. What is helping you to connect to your spiritual path? Honestly, is it communicating with like-minded people? Is it reading books? Is it watching YouTube shows? Is it reading blogs? Is it witch talk? Whatever it is that is helping you to find your path and find your way. That's important. You should keep that. And by all means, teach your kiddos that. If your kiddos are still in the house or your grandkiddos, whatever, that being able to stop and step back and connect with your own spirituality, regardless of your path, and to celebrate your spirituality without fear of judgment. Wow, what an ideal. Just a really big deal. Celebrate your spirituality. Leo, that's awesome. Funny thing. So, there's a certain someone that we all know that didn't used to be a heathen or Odinist, but is now an Odinist. Yeah, I'm a bad influence. It's amazing how our significant others often will influence us and help us to realize our own spiritual path. Yeah, it's a good thing. That's why communication with your spouse, your partner, that's a good thing. Communication is important. So, in summary, because we're almost done already, ruts happen. It's okay. Don't let the rut or getting bogged down in complacency keep you from growing on your spiritual path. There's some way out there that will help you grow. It's just a matter of finding the right one and a way for you to connect. It's out there. Remember, you read the books, ask the questions, participate in the forums. There's so many communities online nowadays that will help you to connect with your spirituality, whatever it is. Make the most of the tools that are out there. Just use, some discernment in the resources that you find because not all of them are created equal, sadly. Get ready to celebrate Litha and Summer Solstice coming up on the 20th. Or winter solstice. Cannot believe that's just over 2 weeks away already. I don't know where this year is going. I'm not quite sure how it's June. What happened to May? I gotta tell you, it's just time. Let's see. Celebrate Litha. Celebrate the sun. Celebrate the growth, the growing season, or celebrate the time of rest if you're dealing with the winter solstice instead of the summer. Find the way that you practice. Find your belief. Find your paganism. Find your spiritual path, whatever it may be, and Maybe it's not paganism. Maybe it's something else. And that's okay. You know, allow others to follow their own spiritual path and follow your own spiritual path. Communicate, educate, but don't dictate. I should put that on a bumper sticker. I really should. Thought. Maybe I will. So, all right. So that is it for tonight. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening, morning, whatever, and I will see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys, for joining. Have a good one.